Ow.
Welcome to the Cowboy Office Show, where you'll experience expert analysis and epic discussion on key pillars of the equine industry, including sports, business, hobby, and the horse lifestyle. Your co-hosts are Jody Brainerd and Brian Dykert, industry veterans with over 120 years combined living the cowboy lifestyle. The Cowboy Office Show will help you get involved, ask more questions, and create change. We'll keep riding for you as together we learn from the ride already ridden, learn to listen better to our horse, and make our industry better for all. Each episode will take a ride around the industry in less time than you can load the truck and trailer. Drop your email at cowboyoffice.com to receive updates and never miss an episode. Saddle up as we ride into today's show.
Hello, Horse World. The working Western lifestyle leads to working Western disciplines in competition, reining, cutting, cow horse, and now, more recently, ranch riding. One of the newest organizations to enter the equine competition industry is the Arabian Working Western Alliance with their Ranch Challenge. This event has a unique perspective to ranch riding with an updated method of scoring the true working Western ranch horse. Today, in this second episode of the four-part series, we continue to explore the AWWA and the development of the Ranch Challenge. Welcome to the Cowboy Office. I'm Brian.
And I'm Jody. Today, we have one of the founding board members of the Arabian Western Working Alliance with us. Let me welcome my longtime colleague and friend, Leo Foray. Leo's been an AQHA judge for 44 years, NRHA judge for 38 years. He is also an approved judge for the NRCHA and the Working Western Division of the Arabian Horse Association. Leo, it seems like I've known you forever. I hate to say I'm that old. It's been a great friendship over the years, and you have my respect. Welcome, Leo.
Thank you. Thank both of you. This is like three old guys sitting around talking. I think this is what it's going to turn out to be, isn't it? Now, I appreciate the opportunity and your interest in ranch riding, ranch classes in general. All three of us know that it's a booming part of the equine industry, and I'm glad to be here and we can visit with each other about it.
We're going to spend our time on this episode exploring and discussing the officiating options along with the future opportunities for this new development called the AWWA. I'm going to just bring that up real quick. You can also find it on the web at ArabianWorkingWestern.com. But first, let's talk about the Ranch Challenge. The Ranch Challenge is a big deal to the AWWA. It's offered at the Arabian and Half Arabian Nationals in Tulsa in October.
Well, the AWWA is a group that is focusing on the working Western type of animal. The Arabians have been known for a long time as I think they call it living art. You know, the halter horse people are always focused on, but the Western Arabian horse is coming into its own, and the AWWA is a specialty group, you might say, similar to the Western pleasure people in the Arab industry, the hunter people in the Arab industry, and the saddle seat people in the Arab industry. Each have their own group and have a premier class or classes at the World Show to focus on their area. The AWWA was developed to bring that same type of focus to the Western horses. And it began with the working Western class called the Ranch Challenge. And this is a pattern class that is designed to spotlight the working Western or just the Western portion of the Arab industry. And so that's what we're trying to do with the AWWA, is bring some focus, and then as a result, to have horses that are bred to do these type of events. Seems to have gotten a nice start. A lot of people have been interested. We're hoping to get it to develop and grow.
So how long has it been happening?
It's been about 3 years now. The first year we did it, we designed a course People talk about ranch riding, for instance. The ranch riding is a class that has a specific pattern. Several of the organizations or associations have a rule book with patterns in it that can be used. The Working Western division that has the Ranch Challenge tried to do this in a little different way. We've tried to make it a practical application of what horses used on a ranch would do. And the idea, at least personally for me, is to having a horse that is accustomed to doing things that lend themselves to a working ranch. There are some working ranches that strictly operate with Arabian horses, so there's no reason that it couldn't happen. But the development of this portion that we're trying to do is helping owners and breeders try to raise them like we try to raise reiners or cutters. And these Arabian horses that aren't do it all the time but aren't known for it, this is to shed some light on them and hopefully get some interest going with the breeders, for instance, and have a unique situation where a portion of their show is half Arabian. They get recognition for crossing Arabians with other breeds. A lot of them are quarter horses, to develop a half Arab, and they have classes and functions at their shows for the half Arab group. And these are the horses. For a while, as you know, Jody, the Arab reining futurity got really, really big because there were a number of reigning supporters that were contributing prize money to this. And a lot of the NRHA trainers were out hunting for some Arabs, purebred or half Arabs, to compete because it was pretty lucrative.
Right. Remember it well at that time. That's a great point. Obviously, we knew this show was coming, and so you write down some questions. And one of the questions I have, and since I've trained them, most of all of us, Brian and I, we have a chance to ride those Arabians, and we had some half Arabs and had some really nice ones too. The Arabian horse, when we were younger and we're growing up, there were always about two things. Number one, the halter horse guys, which is about the look, and then the endurance part about that thing. Those horses, if they endurance race, which was a huge thing, it was always an Arabian that won that because those things could go forever. But with the half Arab and the incentives that they've had, performance is now seeming to be at the tip of that. So that halter thing isn't there anymore, or not, maybe not as strong as it was at one point. I don't want to say that because I don't know about it. Are you seeing now? And I know that I don't want to pin you down as an expert on the Arabian Association because I know you're a reining judge and you do all this kind of stuff. But is that swing even greater now towards that performance from the Arabian standpoint than it used to be? More towards that working class than say just the saddle horse or the halter horse, that kind of a thing where it's about the show and about the look? Are we seeing more of that influence coming into the Arabian Association now, in your opinion?
No question. Some of the largest classes at the national show the last few years have been the Working Western or the ranch type classes. People, I think, have felt that it was comfort level for them to feel like they could compete there, enjoy what they're doing, and have a chance to get a prize. And so, yes, I think any of the breeds, quarter horse or paints, the ranch type classes have boomed in the last number of years, and the Arabians have experienced the same thing.
And what about, I know that the Arabian reining, Scottsdale and the Nationals had a pretty strong growth spot for a while. Is that still as strong and got the demand that it had 10 years ago, or is that kind of leveled off?
It's definitely leveled off, maybe even worse than leveled off. It's probably dropped again. I've judged the Arabian reining futurity at Scottsdale a couple different times. And the first time I did it, it was really a nice event. There was 5 judges, and the entries have dropped to the point where now, I think the last time I did it, it was a 3-judge system because of the economics of a couple more judges and so forth. So the glory days of the Arabian reining are certainly not what they were some years ago.
And do you have a factor? What would contribute to the constriction of that? since they had purse money, they had those parts of it. So if it's constricting, it wasn't just the lack of purse money. Is that correct?
I think that was a driving force, but yeah, there were some other factors that people kind of lost interest. A lot of the NRHA trainers, it was hard to find some really nice purebloods and half Arabs, and it got to the point where the guys had the dominant NRHA trainers didn't have the incentive to hunt for those kind of horses that they did at one time.
Interesting. Yeah.
Fundamentally, which would be driven off purse money not being strong enough to put the effort in. Is that correct?
That was not doing it myself. That's my observation, though. Yes, I think you're correct.
And ranch riding, then, because this would be true across all of the breed orgs, ranch riding has stepped into the void of what the consumer was wanting for basically our lifetime, because horse showing got a little bit out of control with the fashion and all of the components and a lot of individual preferences as opposed to objective officiating. And so ranch riding has stepped into that void in the last 15 years upon its development. And now we're seeing that part, right? Am I right? And so you're seeing that also true at the Arabian and half Arabian.
Yes, the ranch classes themselves, there, in the AQHA, there's a ranching committee even in the committee structure of AQHA. And the duplication, or it isn't exactly a duplication, but the ranch classes are trying to fall back on the history of horses and ranching. And so the fashion you talked about, the glitz and the glamour, a lot of that, was crazy, just what you had to do just to look right when you went into class. Well, the ranch classes have brought that back down to earth, so to speak. And so the idea that it was prohibitive for somebody to get started kind of backed up to where they felt comfortable. Everything's about a comfort level. You'll start something or try something if you can try at your comfort level. And the fact that you didn't need quite as much to get started. The athletic ability of the horses of course, has always been important, but the ranch type classes didn't require the preparation that a reiner or a cutter or a cow horse would have to do to get into the ring. And so the ranch classes have been more affordable and comfortable for people to get started. That's where the AWWA Ranch Challenge is a function or an event that we're trying to pattern somewhat after the NRHA or NRCHA, but it's much more economical. The enrollment fee for not NRCJ, NRBC. I'm sorry, I got too many letters in my head here. The NRBC, and so they have an incentive program that we're trying to get going, where you can nominate a stallion for a nominal amount of money and so forth.
I was going to bring that. So you are creating funds that will pay prize money at the Ranch Challenge, which is at the Nationals, for AWWA. Is that correct?
Correct.
And so those funds are gathering over time, very similar to the rest of us in the discipline world, right? Yeah. So it's not like at the last minute the funds aren't there, because everybody knows for the most part all year, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
And there have been some breeders, Arabian breeders, who have enjoyed what they've seen and have come up with some sponsorship money too that can be incorporated into this prize money. So it gets to be a little more of a financial reward than ever had been previously.
Which I would interpret as being a high incentive function when you then talk about breeding horses, buying horses, want to go play. Those are all primary incentives of what is going to gather up the exhibitors, right?
We think so. We hope so. All three of us know that in the cutters and in the reining horses and in the cow horses, there are certain bloodlines that have become premier in those industries. And hopefully the Arabians people will see that you can breed for these ranch horses. You can get a bloodline that is shown some dominance in the ranch classes, and as a result, enhances the breeding programs and the selling of young horses when there's certain pedigrees involved in the conversation.
I think that's a great step when we're talking about this Western working horse and the popularity, both in, with the Arabian Horse Association, AQHA, APHA, all the breed associations. It's like, and I went to one at the Lazy E last year with Amy, with my wife, and she competed in the reining part of it. But we had the opportunity to watch some of these, the Stock Horse of Texas and some of these other associations, and they have their outdoor trail courses, and those working Western courses, and inside it, and it was all new to me because I'd never seen it before. But it was so much fun, and the people were enjoying themselves so much, and it's kind of like, if you're training a reiner or you've got that cow horse or a cutter, that professional help is needed all the time. And I'm not saying that it's not needed in this also, because it is. But if I were an amateur rider and I knew how to ride and I had a nice little 4-year-old gelding, and I thought, you know what, if I can teach him to side pass and I can teach him to get to the mailbox and I can get through the gate and I can drag the log and all those things I get to do by myself. And that is rewarding in itself when I get to go ride my horse every single day, and then I can go compete. So I don't have to be at that level where I have to be at that trainers and I have to go to that show with an extra 15 or 20 horses. I mean, I could probably get by doing this myself. And I think that's a great incentive for people that don't have a breeding program, that they just have a horse or two and enjoy riding. So I can see where this could go, pay big dividends when people think that maybe we can get a little check at the same time instead of just winning a ribbon. Maybe I'd get my stall paid for. So, wow. I think it's great. Really do.
Or gas money in today's time.
Heck yes.
Tell us about the age. Is there an age limitation on the Ranch Challenge? Can any age horse play?
At this point, it's designed for the younger horses. There's purses within the purse, you might say. The horses that are generally thought of to be in the Ranch Challenge will be by subscribed stallions. Owners can nominate, you might say, the foals even before they're born, again for nominal fees, and then they will compete at the nationals in the fall. There is a new in 2025. There's a 5-year-old section only for incentive fund 5-year-olds. And due to the fact that we don't have so many of those available yet, since the program is fairly new, the incentive fund horses old enough to compete, we're leaving it as an open class. And so as more horses that are eligible for the challenge become available, then we may be able to categorize these classes a little bit, define them, let's say, in a more specific way. But right now it's an open class that hopefully will be well received.
I hear you. So you got some new stuff coming for 25, which is this 5-year-old section. But then talk about the officiating component, because I'm assuming you have to be following strict USEF, AHA show rules. Is that correct?
And not entirely. Since this is not an AHA class, then it is not a USEF either. It's a separate specialty within the AHA. And so at this point, the idea of the officiating is going to be more customary based on some of the breed organizations. My thoughts on this is the ranch riding, there's patterns in the rule book. In the ranch riding classes, you pick one of those patterns. It's announced in the show program, or, when you make your entries, you know what it's going to be. The Ranch Challenge will be a situation where the obstacles or things that the horses have to negotiate that the AWWA came up with for this specific class. So we're trying to simulate ranch work as much as possible.
We've got to run. I think this is a good spot. Let's play this run. And then, Leo, you kind of narrate through, including how those officials are marking it as it goes on. But this is the 2023 winner of the Ranch Challenge. So let's take a peek, and you'll have to tell us who it is.
Well, this gentleman, as I recall, is actually an amateur, and he won the thing. The idea of these horses being able to negotiate obstacles, you might say, is important. But when the first year that we had this, I sat with the judges and tried to explain to them that, here's a horse loping around there now. Is that the kind of horse you'd want to get on and take out and ride in on a ranch and get some work done? So how that horse gets from one place to another, to me, is as important as what they do when they get to an obstacle and how do they negotiate it. One of the years, for instance, we had a rope on a lariat rope on a stand, and the horses would come up, and this is all prescribed, pattern work.
Right, it's prescribed ahead of time, but it's made at the event. It's not sitting in a rule book.
Exactly.
And this is the obstacle that we actually reviewed in the first episode, where you talked about that horse has got to pick his way through it.
Right. It's the rider's responsibility to get the horse ready and get him to the show, but that's an obstacle right there where there were several pieces of what you might call firewood logs and some pumpkins and things around it. And here comes the roping portion right here.
You got to pick up the lariat, rope a dummy, put it back.
But this is not a roping exercise. This, we've instructed the judges at this point. I don't care if they catch the dummy or not. In fact, I hope they don't, because if they do, then I got to come out and take the rope off and recoil it. But I'm right now, I'm watching that horse, and he's allowing that rider to rope. He isn't. He's a partner with the rider in that, and those are the kind of little things that I think, to me, are very important. He didn't catch, but he recoiled the rope. He went back, thankfully, and hung it back up. But it's about how the horse reacts to the various things that are in the arena. Those little logs, it wasn't like a jigsaw puzzle where you had to sneak through it, but it was an idea that these horses were working with the rider, just like in a reining definition. It's the rider and can dictate to the horse, but you don't want people to know you're dictating the horse. You want it to look like you and the horse are working together.
Right. And I think it's coming close to the end of the run. Yeah.
As I said, to me, I emphasize a lot on how you get from one of these obstacles to another is equally or maybe more important than how you actually do what you do at the obstacle. It's like the hunters. How the hunter gets from one fence to another is being judged as well as how they get over the fence. And so the ranch work is the same way.
I see great potential for it, and I think it's way fun. I think talking about the officiating here in a minute will be even more fun. But as I watch it go down, it's one of those things that and nobody knows it better than myself in mid-60s now, and there's a huge difference between that 50-year-old age and a mid-60 age, where you lose that sense of timing and you lose that balance, and it's just like it doesn't matter how hard you work at it, it's just part of it. But this is an event that I can be 75 years old and I can go compete in it. I probably can't go down the fence anymore at that age unless I'm Doug Williamson or something like that. But Doug Williams. But it's one of those guys that this is an event that's friendly, it's user friendly, and I think that's just fantastic.
Well, it's kind of it's meant to be a throwback to when we were young, Jody. My first serious job in the horse business was on a ranch in New Mexico. And your dad and Jimmy Randall's were good friends. When I was on the ranch, part of my job, I think I alluded to this somewhat in our first broadcast or telecast. Mm-hmm. One of my jobs was starting the 2-year-olds. Well, he gave me a week or so, or a number of days in a pen by the barn. And then after that, I had to go out and check cattle if they were sick, or, check the windmills, make sure they were pumping water, make sure the liquid feeders were full. And I did it on these 2-year-olds. I've said many times, and I'll say it again, I think those 2-year-olds taught me more than I taught them. But you were able to use these horses. And we went to horse shows on the weekend, but we didn't have any show horses. We had the horses we rode all week, cleaned them up, flipped their whiskers, and put them in the trailer, went to the horse show. And Monday morning, we went back to work on them. Now, there isn't the working ranch situation that there was back in the years I'm talking about, but that's, in my mind, that's what we're trying to duplicate here. We're trying to duplicate horses that work with the rider to get a job done. And that brings me to the issue. It can be problematic at best to turn a job that the horses do into a horse show class. But I look at it when I'm judging or when I'm coaching some judges to how to work with this is keep that in mind. We're trying to duplicate, going over some logs isn't part of a ranch work, but to get from where the ranch starts to where the ranch work is, you might have to go over logs. So it's we think of it as hopefully a more complete horse that helps you as much as you help it.
Sure.
Well, I think one of the interesting points that both of you bring up is the mere fact, one, what a great way of getting your horses broke. Two, the riders and owners being able to practice and do stuff on a daily basis on their own without needing, so to speak, professional guidance and professional programs every minute of every day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I would see that as a very attractive kind of feature, because when you put these things together, it wasn't whether or not you did or didn't rope the dummy. It was merely, can you and your horse go grab the rope, try to snag something and go put it back. That's the moral of that maneuver, correct?
Totally.
Yeah. So quite stimulating all the way around and very attractive to an exhibitor in a pool. And I would say it's probably got the potential to be more attractive than some of the pattern functions that we're seeing in the rule books of breeds. So when you talk to and work with officials, I think it's very cool that you have a very dynamic set of classes and an organization inside a regulated event, AHA and USEF, but is not part of that regulation. That's fascinating in itself. And I give you all credit and kudos for doing that. Everybody, top down, side to side. But what are you telling, what are the officials doing? What are the officials doing while that horse is going through the pattern? Is it a scoring system? Is it numerical? Or is it you just place your top 10 horses on a card like other classes? What is it?
Well, there is a scoring system. We're still not still, but the ultimate scoring system is still, so you might say, in development.
Good.
Right now, we use the +1.5 to -1.5 and try to evaluate what the horse did negotiating something that's in front of them.
Mhm.
And what I would ultimately like to see is minimize the number of penalties and be able to reward a horse that is working with the rider and looks focused on the job. And it's sort of like, I know we'll get into it here as far as judging and officiating, but I would like this class to be one that we could minimize the penalties and evaluate each thing that they do and kind of grade it. And then it becomes mathematical, I think, at the end, because everybody likes to look at a score sheet and determine where their strong points were and where their weak points were. And hopefully we can still accomplish that.
Right. So you're talking about the entire program still being in development. I hear you, which means you're developing and writing your own rules year to year, right?
Yes, in essence, that's right. Yes.
So minimizing penalties should be easy because you got to just not write it down. If you don't want, that's point one. Point two would be, hang on, I don't know these answers I'm asking. If you want the positive side of the scale, you could shift that scale. Do you need it to be equal from the bottom to the top? No, you don't need to. So if you want it to be emphasized on the top side, you could maybe make it only go to minus half and take it up to +2 on half point increments as far as a scale for judges to work on. But what that does is force them to be on the positive side as opposed to what our senses are, which is negative is easy to find, excellence is hard to find.
You're right. I was Chris Benedict, who's in charge of judges and stewards for AQHA, was here in Scottsdale for the Sun Circuit, and I was visiting with him a little bit. And one thing that you guys are both aware of, I'm sure, the AQHA roping classes have been changed to the scale is from a +3 to a -3, and it allows for more evaluation of what the horse did or didn't do, and less concern about documenting the wrong things they did. And I think that has some merit. Now, Chris wasn't as excited about it as I was. I've still got some visiting to do with other people, but to bring up another individual that you both know is Bill Enck from California. Bill is the
Cowhorse
director of judges for NRCHA. And Bill has, if you go to one of Bill's seminars, he always talks about the fact that don't hunt for a penalty when you're watching these horses work. But if something happened that didn't look right, that's going to affect the maneuver. So deal with it as much as you can in the maneuver, and don't be so set on how wrong did they do it. Be a little more positive. And I know, Brian, you've always been one to talk about the positive, I think, too. And so the curious thing for me with AQHA, for instance, is ranch riding. The class ranch riding was the first ranch class to go into the AQHA rule book. Since then, there's been ranch trail has come along. Well, in the original rules, and they're the same to this day, there's two sentences in the rules if you read ranch riding rules, and it says there's no penalty for ticking or hitting a log when you go over it. You deal with it in the maneuver score. There is no penalty for over or under spinning if you're required to turn your horse around. Deal with it in the maneuver score. And I would like to see that be more of the sentiment of judging these horses than, oh, wait a minute, was that a half-point penalty or a 1-point penalty, you know? And you know, and I'm not putting judges down. I mean, I've been doing it a long time, but some of these judges that aren't as confident, you know, they would like to see a numerical value on the score sheet that allows them to point out where somebody did it wrong, and it justifies what they've done. And I'd like to see us be more judges and less bookkeepers.
understood. Jody, did you have something?
Yeah, I mean, you know, all of this is interesting, and I think that, and especially, like I said, I don't want to stay with the Arabs because we can generally talk about this event itself. And Brian and I have had extensive discussion about judging because it's a passion for us, Leo, and you know how much we have a modified system for the reining that we feel like at some point in time is going to pay great dividends for the reining horse itself. And, you know, we talk about the objective and subjective decisions, and we talk about judging, we talk about officiating, and, you know, we've done some background work with the National Football League officiating, and you've heard me say probably 5,000 times that the answer is always in the middle. And I'm not sure, I would like an opinion from you guys on this one too. But, you know, when we're dealing with horses, there's a lot of that stuff. We talk about that benefit of the doubt thing. You know, Brian and I have had this discussion in the past, and penalty application we feel like is absolute. It either happened or it didn't. So you can eliminate benefit of the doubt. Penalty applications, figure out a way to make it yes or no. And I think that helps a great deal. But when we're judging horses, and depending on the event or depending on the class, what we're doing, there is, when you talked about the Arabian being the living art, I mean, a great reining horse and a great cow horse, or even in this event itself, there's a little bit of art involved in that. It's kind of like if you've ever seen the Mexicans rope, I mean, they're so intricate about it. They all catch, but it's how they catch. It's an art form when they rope. So with the horses, when we judge them, we set the standards and we say, these are your plus halves, these are your plus ones, these are your, this is this penalty is absolute. This is what happens. But is not there a part of that officiating and judging together, the answer in the middle there somewhere, that you have to be able to use a little bit of expression when you find the separation of those two really great horses? Brian told me the other day he was lucky enough. I was jealous as hell when he got to judge Boomerich when he won the futurity, and at that time that was a revolutionary run. I mean, that was like nobody ever seen that, and I'm like, holy crap! I would have loved to have been in the chair for that. But that was an art form at that time, not just. Do you understand what I'm saying? A little bit, guys. I mean, is that I'm
Sure.
I know we have to be objective, and I know that we have to say this is how we need to officiate. But there's a little bit of that we have to say. Brian, you were like, he was a winner on my card all day long, and not just because he was physical, but because he was special.
Yeah, special, degree of difficulty, all the above. It was an industry changing function in what we were talking about, and that's true if you looked over history, because that was the joining of the East Coast and West Coast style of stock horse. So it was a very logical step, and Boomernick and Brett's showing that year, they just dominated. Yes, and that was a great piece of conversation. I would tell you, and yes, you and I continue to do a lot of research, but that's why I bring it up, because what AWWA is doing now, as they continue to develop and stimulate the Western side of the Arabian horse in modern time, the answer to what you're talking about, Jody, I'm going to say it this way. Do we want experts' opinions or viewpoints or expertise in decision-making? The answer is yes. And generally, more experts comes out with a better ultimate decision. The real answer is, how do we when we use multiple judge systems, how do we put those expert decisions together to come out with one decision? That's the answer. And so and I'm going to just use reining as the example, because we still drop high and low and add the three in the middle. And the question then would come, is that the best culmination of 5 experts around the entire arena, and there is no hiding and reining? That's the real question. And can that be used in a more advanced form in today's time? I would then tell you the answer is yes, it can. That's where that comes into play. It's not trying to make 5 officials see everything. John Snoblin talks about the connection between the heart. The art form of officiating is connecting the heart and the mind. Because when it's that good, when you see a horse that you want to saddle up and go ride, Leo, the one you want to take home, when they're that good, they move you. And so when they move you, how do you then put that into an educated decision on how good something is? I would tell you, in today's time, we lean on the benefit of the doubt and maneuver evaluations way too much. And what we lean on it on is not awarding the movement when we're moved, that excellence, that we talk ourselves out of it. And I can tell you that in the reining world, because the amount of +1s that are now being used is significantly higher than it was 10 years ago. But they're being pushed to find and mark +1.5s, and the benefit of the doubt keeps them from doing it. I just say that in a practical and a plural sense, but that's where the real question is. How do you take a multiple group of experts and then put them in an objective system to come out with one decision that is truly determining competition in today? I think it's fascinating when you look at NFL. Jody, you've done a lot of research in the officiating side of the NFL, but if you see the list of rule changes that the NFL is proposing in the offseason right now, which is based on and one of them is how they measure first downs. And they've been doing it with the manual chain and flag forever. Well, guess what? That's going to change next season. They're going to use technology because now they're down to inches. Okay, well, where are we when we talk about, and that's what you were talking about, Leo, taking a rope horse and going to 3 because they want more dimensions of quality. I would have told you my reflex on, you want your judges to mark on the positive, move your scale to the positive, because that negative, you don't need it as much and it's going to take care of itself. So it's a logical spot in how do you use an objective decision across the competition. That's the point. I know that was lengthy.
Well,
Sorry.
no, but it's interesting when you stated that the first time. It's something that had not occurred to me, and I'm going to be thinking about this. But you're right. If you are encouraged to be more positive, one way to do it is to eliminate some of the negative. And I think I judged yesterday morning, actually, IEA, Interscholastic Equestrian Association show for
High school.
here in town. And they're getting some riders qualified to go to the regionals and whatever. When I've judged some of these ranch classes, I've had much less trouble getting higher scores, because when I see something that maybe not all aspects of it are good, but when I see something that as you said moves me, it to me it's easy to get more positive with them. But the mechanics of it is another situation. But what you brought up about eliminating some of that negative range that you can go to would force people to be a little more positive and a little more encouraging.
I think it's really interesting when we talk about the officiating part of this thing too. And Brian, it's when you talk about the NFL and the new rule changes, I mean, the one thing that's funny about the NFL, or not funny about it, but every single thing in the National Football League is in some way, shape, or form based on what's best for the audience, right? I mean, because it's all about money. They have profit sharing throughout the league, with the NFL owners, and this thing's all about money. When they have a rule change, they figure out how's it best going to suit the viewing audience, the millions of people that find the NFL great. And I think with officiating in an event like this, I think it'd be fantastic for a viewing audience. I think it would be like you could take this just like a reining, and you could make this something really, really easy for an audience to understand. I mean, wouldn't it be great if they had a live score system when that horse went by the event? If something flashed that said, +1.5 and or +3 as it happened. I don't know how you could make it work, but I mean, I would think that would be something that, audience engagement for me is paramount. We talk about that with the Rainers. It's like, we want the audience watching, and what greater way to create money than to have more people want to watch you. So I think the officiating can be a big part of that too. So we just have to figure out a way to make it work.
I agree with you. And tell me, Leo, are you finding the Ranch Challenge to be audience stimulating?
In the limited time we've had it available at the Arab National Show, it's gotten extremely stimulating to the audience. I hadn't been prior to that to a lot of Arabian shows, but they have a tendency to sit on their hands. Well, this Ranch Challenge class was like going to the NRHA Futurity Finals. People are hooting and hollering and carrying on, and that's all spontaneous. There's no sign up there that says applause. They see things they're interested in. It reminds me of, you can go on the internet and watch these super baseball plays, and the umpires in baseball is the guy out or isn't he?
Right.
But you watch some of these exciting double plays where somebody throws it to the second baseman from their back and he doubles it up over on first, and people go crazy in the stands, So what they see, it didn't affect the score of it might have affected the score, but it was because did they get somebody out or didn't they? But when some, bizarre things happen and they still pull off a double play, that's pretty exciting.
I would think, because you guys can get creative with your courses. you could create courses that are doing two things at once, not only providing something very nice for an audience, but truly challenging the working Western skill between horse and rider, right? I mean, we just saw it in the kind of dimension that you provided in the 23 championship, but you could get very creative in that space. I think Jody brings up a heck of a point, because all of us in today's time, all of us, and we're dead guilty of this, we are not presenting our competitive product to the audience in an engaging way yet. The American Performance Horseman, the Run for the Million, the Futurity, the Derby, all the NRB, all of them, they're not there yet. They're getting there. It's very slow. The streaming is a piece. All that's doing is allowing us to live in the live space without being there on site. But the way we present it is not engaging to the audience. And I think Jody's point with the NFL is huge. Why does the NFL address those types of rule changes? Yes, it's about money. And where's the money coming from? A very large fan base. And when the fans don't agree with the officiating, that's when everybody kind of goes, we got to figure this stuff out, which is about accuracy of efficiency. It's not about being perfect. It's about the fans want it to be fair and equal, and they want the best out of the officiating at the same time the competitors are doing it. We struggle there as a sport because we're kicking the tail out of the officials, while the horses and the riders, it's still long days, but they've got a lot more time to manage their downtime. Officials don't. We're in the 12 to 15 hours a day for day after day after day. And anybody in the intellectual space will tell you what we're asking out of officials is actually more than achievable. I just,
No question. No, I agree 100%.
You know, that's the show itself is a huge part of it, and great officiating even makes it better. I mean, you don't have to look any further than the Denver Freestyle, which has been going on for how long, Brian? I mean,
20
that thing's
plus years.
sold out show every year. I mean, they sold out. Is the officiating perfect there? Oh, heck no, because freestyle is very difficult to judge, but people love to watch it. And in that situation, and they make a big production out of it. I've shown it and I've judged it. And it's like, you know, they're making introductions to the rider and the lights and it's just a great show and people love to see it. And we need to bring that to us. And like I said, something that simple, they've made work. We can do it too. And with good officiating.
Yes. Yes. And that's the part that we were talking about, because as you guys are developing, you've got an opportunity that's much easier than everybody else. Changing what you have and what the standard is in the horse show industry, that's much harder to change than what you guys are doing with the AWWA. And then I believe, Leo, and you can tell us, AWWA is also precipitating the development of another level of working Western, which is the WWA, correct?
Correct.
So fill us in just a touch.
Well, the AWWA was developed by Sandy Worley, who was in the Arab industry for a number of years. And she wanted to emphasize the usefulness, you might say, of the Arabian horse, like we've talked about for eons with the quarter horse or the more traditional Western horses. The AWWA is a subgroup within the AHA, their national show, as I mentioned before. Sandy has created a corporation now that is called the WWA, and it's just the Working Western Alliance. And we like the word alliance because it denoted some input from a lot of sources, you might say, and that would be a lot of breeds or even non-breeds. I've even kind of half jokingly, but I guess there's no reason why it couldn't happen. The Pintos have a long-eared division. The mules that get ridden there are I don't know if I suppose there's a mule registry. I'm not familiar with it, but you could have a zebra division, I guess. If you can ride the thing, the WWA Working Western Alliance, you could come under their huge, what we hope to become a huge umbrella. And so the idea started with the Arabs, and the AWWA will continue to exist, but the WWA is a separate entity and will try to develop and foster the growth of ranch type events. We may come up with some new events even, who knows?
All breeds, open horse and rider,
Correct. That's right.
which will truly be discipline based, and then developing a ranch challenge championship for all of them. Right.
And there could be, it could develop into a qualifying thing. Like, what was the show here that Amanda Brumley ran? The Cactus Classic.
Well, the Run for the Million qualifiers held at the Cactus Classic.
Right. There were some ranch classes incorporated there.
Right.
And with the attempt to make the ranch type classes available and accessible to other disciplines, like you mentioned at the top of this broadcast. And so the idea that there might be places around the country you could qualify, and then the ultimate ranch challenge championships could be at a central location and be an event, a standalone event, but fed from other avenues around the country, by themselves or in conjunction with another show. The newness of this really has allowed us to think big, but getting it down on paper, you might say, is the job now.
Yeah, but the cow horses, the reiners, and the cutters, and the ropers have all, and now even the bull riders from pro rodeo. All of those are advanced disciplines focused on the skill and discipline of what's demanded. It is not regulated by what organization you're a member of and or what breed of horse you're riding, because there could be many times great horses. Now comes the mule. It doesn't matter if they're registered or not, right? They can do it. Come on.
There you go. It's the idea of a job turning into a class for a horse event. If whatever you're riding can complete the job, that's a plus. I mean, that's what we're looking for, from my perspective, at least.
So when do you see this coming to a structural? When will you be structured, formalized, and ready to introduce? I understand the WWA is structurally working on that now, but when would you see? Is this a 2026 thing or a 2027 thing, or what's the short-term vision? And I get the big part. And Jody and I don't want to overly speak for Jody, but when you talk about writing rules and then you talk about advanced development of officiating, we'd love to at least offer some of the things that we've spent years researching and kind of know, because we were just talking about how do you shifting the scales easy if that's what you want. So tell me what your short-term goals are with launching the WWA.
Well, I think the input of people, experts, people with more like you that have looked into a lot of different facets of this, picking brains, and I think it'll be an ongoing process. We're hoping that in 2026 we'll have it a little more defined and a little more point focused, and then as it works, fine, and if it doesn't, then we try something else, you might say. It'll be an ongoing project, but I don't, at least in my mind, I don't have a definite date that by X date we're going to have this.
No, but from a practical standpoint, you could see it hitting the market next year.
Yes, to some degree.
Right,
some degree. It still could be open to adjustment.
Sure.
Well, I think the all breeds deal is phenomenal. I think it's a great idea, and I think that if an American paint horse can qualify, and there's somewhere, way, shape, or form, I think that's super, super positive. And I mean, it's kind of like the old Field of Dreams. If you build it, they'll come. In other words, if you can figure out a way to get enough money up, it'll happen so fast. I mean, these guys are trainers like, oh yeah, we're going, right? So it's a phenomenal idea. It's just, like I said, from the officiating standpoint, we've got some stuff that we can help with. If you want it, we'll do whatever it takes. But I think it's a phenomenal idea.
Yeah, I do too.
Thank you.
Here's what we know. If you only make it about the prize money, that stimulation will be short-lived. So does the prize money need to be appropriate according to the work and effort that goes into competition? Yes, of course. But what's really important, I think, is two things, because in the world of horse sports, what we have not paid attention to in our lifetime is an audience or a fan. And we're at the very beginning of developing a fan. And which means you got to service two consumers at the same time. Now it puts us in the category similar to professional sports, a fair and equal competition that is enjoying to watch to a fan. Whether they played last week or next week doesn't matter. They're moving at the same pace that the exhibitor is. So serving the fan and the exhibitor at the same time is that ultimate piece in competition. I think it's absolutely fascinating because that's the place that all of us are in pursuit. The jumpers are trying to do it. The cross-country horses are trying to do it. The dressage horses are trying to do it. The cutters are trying to do it. The Run for the Million's trying to do it. The cow horses are doing a very good job. The reiners are trying to do it. The ropers have been doing a very good job for the last 8 to 10 years. Rodeo is very strong. It went through its own turmoil, but coming out the other side of that, which is the social license to operate piece. So all of those are very key dynamic lessons from an industry standpoint that I think positions you guys phenomenally well to then take what's the next logical forward step. And that's why I bring up those two, the exhibitor, but now also an audience, and it can be done. So God bless you. I wish you the best.
Well, thank you. I think the audience part of it is going to be interesting as the ranch challenge becomes more, people are more aware of it. Having qualifying events around the country, then all of a sudden people say, "Hey, I saw this such and such down at the arena last week, and there's a big one coming up over here, and there's a national championship at the end of the year." I mean, making more people aware of it and understanding it, that's a big part of it too. You know, the exhibitor understands it, but the spectator has to understand it as well, I think.
Correct. And I think that's why I was challenging it a touch, because as you're writing and putting the structure into place, as well as the financial components, which is purse money and entry fee, and how do you formulate that? Real issue is your ability to present it to an audience, because nobody in the horse world is getting it done right. Nobody. Even the jumpers aren't. And they're on CBS, but their presentation is still lacking. That's my opinion.
Absolutely. I think working with these college girls and the NCEA, there's a great spot for a fan base there. And I think people like in this situation, this Working Western Alliance, because certain types of this stuff we don't take advantage enough of. I mean, not just social media, but wouldn't it be great if Leo and Brian Digert had two horses that they worked in this Working Western Alliance, and I was a big fan of guys my age that were showing these horses. I want to be able to pull you guys up online, and I want to see where you're competing, and I want to watch your runs. I want to be able to do that from home because maybe I can't get to Scottsdale. But that nobody does that, and why not? Why can't you do that, right? You create a fan base. I want to watch you guys. I want to, and I want to turn on my computer and see it. So there's so many directions a person could go to create that. So it's fun stuff just thinking about it.
We've hit two big topics. AWWA, they're going to happen in October at the Nationals. Way it goes. The Ranch Challenge is a highlight to it. Got several classes and divisions to it. But now comes the opening of a whole new discipline organization, the WWA, the Working Western Alliance. And with ranch riding, for all the obvious reasons, doing what it's doing, which is obviously on a strong growth line, and should be very continual for a long, long time. Says to me the middle ground of the Western side of the horse show world. Am I right or am I wrong, Leo?
No, I think you're right. And I think we all know that some of these other disciplines can be physically challenging for the horses. And when they can do it, it's fun to watch. But the other side of that is that there gets to be a lot of soundness issues. It's like they're hardworking athletes. And the ranch challenge, they're going to have to be athletic. They're going to have to be trainable. They're going to have to work with their riders, but physically it's less challenging. And as a result, the career should be longer. Be like Jody was saying, you know, us old guys can even do it. Well, some of these older horses can probably do it
Sure.
longer too. I mean, there could be horses that become famous late in life where
Sure.
the other disciplines, their golden years are their younger years. So it's looking at that as well, and I think that's could be an angle to enjoy.
Oh, I think without a doubt. My head tells me on any given day that, boy, it'd be nice to get back in shape and go compete again in raining. But my body tells me every morning it is long gone behind me. So something like this that
Sure.
I could still stay, Jody's saying we could still stay as active in all these different forms, I think is phenomenal. And it is true. You know, that spot between 50 and 65 is a very distinct, and I'm talking about us, not the horses.
Mhm.
It's a very distinct spot. And once you cross over it, there's no coming back. So, and I can only say that because I've crossed it. So that's the deal. Right.
For sure.
So, no, I think it's cool. So God bless you. All the power to you. I wish you all the best. We're going to do 2 more shows. It'll be late summer, early fall, because we're going to do 2 shows here at the Cowboy office. Leo, I'm not sure exactly where you're going to fall into that, but the point of those 2 shows is a pre-show leading up to the Ranch Challenge at this year's Nationals. And then we'll do a post show after the Nationals. And I'm not sure who our guest will be and what that looks like, but we'll figure that out. But that's what the game plan is. And then in the meantime, you guys obviously have your hands very full with the next development of not only the AWWA Ranch Challenge, but now you're going to develop this open breed new discipline, the WWA. So you guys are going to be more than busy.
Thank you for reminding me.
So
Yes.
it's been a pleasure. It's great to see you again. We look forward to what we still got to do, but we look forward to what you guys are doing. So thanks for your time. Thanks for being here. Make sure you share with Sandy our appreciation. Arabian Working Western.com is the AWWA's website. And until next time, enjoy the ride.
Thank
Leo.
you, sir.
Thank you so
Appreciate it.
much for being a guest again. Love having you. Like I said, you're one of the guys that I grew up respecting. So anyway, I appreciate you. And Brian, thank you. Until next time, both of you stay in the middle.
We'll do it.
Today's episode is brought to you by 4D Productions in cooperation with the Consultment Agency, a full-service agency that helps bring forward-thinking equine brands into the 21st century using digital skills and services such as website development, graphic design, social media, and media production such as the podcast you're consuming here today.